Hi, I'm John Paul and a really warm welcome back to my channel. Today I'm continuing on the subject of letting go of a previous career, moving into sort of uncertainty and in the context of career change, and in this case, of course, for lots of people that watch this channel, becoming a therapist. So in the previous video that I did, I talked about the ease side of things, the fact that there is an underlying part of you that has always got you through and that I think you can trust, so it doesn't all have to be about effort and the next thing that you do. Having said that, of course, there are things that we can do, ways that we can think, behaviours that we can engage in that mean that this process of moving from a known job, which at least sort of what you do day by day is known, income is known, those kind of things, into uncertainty, there are certainly things you can do that I think are going to help with that process and make it less kind of bumpy. And I would call those, what I talked about in the past video would be the kind of ease side of things, that if you're afraid to jump, you're actually already swimming, even in terms of the career and making the career change by watching videos like this, for example, you're already on that process and you can trust that. And also there are things from an effort point of view that we can do too, which, as I say, are going to make that process easier. So I'm going to talk about 5 of them today. I may follow up with other videos. It would be lovely to hear from you, the kind of things that help you as well. So as ever, please do comment below the videos or separately email me as well too. Just before I start, just wanted to say a few things about future videos and also the channel generally. I'm very grateful for everybody that adds a like or a comment beneath the videos, or certainly subscribes, of course, as well, and also shares the videos as well. I've noticed there's quite a lot of shares of the videos, which is amazing. So thank you so much for what you do there. And also, if you like this video, please do like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, of course comment, whether that's under the video. A lot of people also message separately, so please feel free to do that too. I'll always try and reply to everybody who contacts me, and also do share the video if you think it would be helpful for others as well. Just in terms of future videos, the subjects that I normally cover on the channel will be general mental health and well-being. From that point of view, I might be looking at doing another video around narcissism. The videos that I've done seem to be watched quite a lot. Very importantly, which is often neglected with people, is how to move through narcissism. If somebody is narcissistic, things are often expressed from the point of view of the person who is on the receiving end of narcissism, I suppose. So I think it can be helpful. The only way something's going to change is if people who have those traits turned up high find a way to manage them and change in a way that means those traits are turned down. So I'm going to do something on that. I think generally also as well, I'd like to do more videos on the bisexuality side of things. Always looking for ideas on that. So I will try and do something more on that, because I know quite a few people have subscribed watching those videos. Just an idea that if anybody has their story that they would like me to read out on the channel, I would be more than happy to do that if you write in. But as I say, looking into the future about ideas for that too. As far as conversations with other therapists or people that I find interesting that might be helpful for you, looking at career change, those kind of things, I will continue to be doing that, doing my one-to-one videos as well. So the next one I've got planned after this is to answer the question, should I become a therapist? It's one of the key questions that's often asked by people. I'm going to give some thoughts on that. Of course, I can't answer that question for you, but I think there's lots of things that I hope I can helpfully, usefully say on that. So I'm going to record that video as well. As ever with all these things, this video that I'm recording now was actually a subscriber's idea. So if you have any ideas for things that you want me to cover, then please do write in, either comment below the channel in the communities tab as well, or write to me separately. Okay, so moving to the actual subject, to the video now. It's about 5 things that I think will be helpful from the point of view of making this process of moving from some degree of certainty to uncertainty easier. So being able to navigate that, making the ride less bumpy, making it less of a roller coaster. More generally on this, if you have a look at my video about setting up a private practice, which is on this channel, something that I talk about quite a lot at the beginning of that, some of you may already have watched it, is the importance of somebody's psychological state on the process of doing that. It's a very significant change moving into somewhere new. What new tends to get filled with for a lot of people, particularly if they've previously been quite anxious, tends to be anxiety. Now, anxiety is an absolute gift. Fears are a gift in that they ask great questions. As I've said previously, they ask us questions that can be answered. We can make a list based on the anxieties that we have, and we can research things, connect with others, talk to others, and get information that's going to make this process actually happen. The difficulty also with anxiety and fears is the behaviour that tends to come with them is avoidance. And in a situation like this, what some people will do is avoid making any change because of the catastrophizing that they might do, or the fact that their anxiety underestimates how good they are at things, or how capable they are in the world, and how competent, and equally underestimates how helpful other people might be on that process as well. So generally, we're looking at ways, I think, of keeping ourselves in a more calm and alive state, which I have talked about in other videos as well. We will do that through our thoughts, managing emotions, through our body, and through behaviours, and also through relationships with other people, which to a degree is, of course, behaviours. But from this point of view, I'm going to focus, as I say, on 5 specific things which I think ought to be helpful for you. So getting started, number 1 is about creative imagination, using your imagination to create, specifically in the context of imagining an ideal day. So if you want to make this process from a known job that you're doing to this place of uncertainty, try and imagine what your ideal day as a therapist, if that's what we're talking about, whether that's in private practice, somewhere else, a mixture of those things, what would it look like? Because something that I often say to people who are changing career, or thinking of changing career, and they do a job already that they don't really enjoy that much, but they do it well enough. It's complicated. Lots of jobs now are very complicated. People can receive hundreds of emails a day. So there's this hugely complex thing. They're negotiating relationships all the time, meeting other people's demands, managing their own well-being, managing families, all sorts of things. And the thing that I'll often say to somebody is, if you are doing that well enough now, something that you don't actually enjoy doing, it doesn't give you meaning and purpose, imagine what it will be like to spend your life doing something that gives you meaning and purpose. And I think the key word here is imagine, because I think we often use our imagination, if fear's around a lot, if anger's around a lot, to catastrophize. We will often be using our imagination to take things apart, to find reasons why not, to find reasons why things might go wrong. And as I've said, it is a gift to ask questions about what might go wrong, so we can prepare for that too. But we don't want that to stop us doing something just to protect us or keep us safe, which is actually going to be in our best interest to do. So if we're looking at that process of moving into uncertainty, something here is to have an idea, to imagine, to use your imagination to imagine what that day might look like. So if there's anybody that particularly inspires you, looking at anything that particularly lights you up, it can just be moments of somebody that you admire in this world. Imagine what their day is like. Imagine what it feels like to be in their place, doing the thing that they do that inspires you or makes you come alive. And of course it can be different bits from different people that you've seen. I understand this is all imagination, this is all a projection onto that person. We don't know what the reality of their life is like, but from our point of view, I think it's really helpful to hold and be forming an idea, be creating with your imagination an idea of what your ideal day would look like in the future. If you're looking at anxiety, depression, one of the things that people struggle with those is the ability to construct a future. So let's use imagination here. You're using it all the time anyway, 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Lots of things will be happening in imagination. Let's make sure that some of those are going to be about this life that you want to create and what you want it to look like. And there will be plenty of things that are already in your life that will also be in that day. But if you're looking at a career change, what does that career day look like? What impact are you making? Who are you around? And very particularly, engage your senses in it. What does it look like, sound like, smell? What can you touch? Those sorts of things in this image, in this picture. And then also, which is very important, is to connect it with your body, that image. Notice the effect that it has on your body to be in this more connected place with yourself and others. Where do you feel that in your body? And connect the two, sort of connect the image with the feeling. So that's that's the first thing I would say, is to have this image. It will change over time with all the sort of research that you do, with things that you look into, with people that you speak to. It's likely to sort of reshape, but let's create that idea now. Just one thing to say about emotions there, and also one thing to say about thinking and imagining there. If you look at the emotions, of course, what I would normally say in other videos and things is to look for those things which make you come alive, which inspire you, which light you up, whatever those emotions might be: passion, joy, love, excitement. Also, some people will be paying attention to their anger. Anger can be very motivating. The sort of activists that I've talked about in other videos on Twitter, those therapist activists, I imagine anger can be a motivating force for them as far as the day that they want. So it's going to be different for different people. Also, if you're looking at another emotion, envy can be an interesting one, because people don't like to be described as envious. People don't like to feel envious. And of course, if that dominates life, I think the difficulty with it, envy, is about superiority, inferiority, about thinking we're less than. So, and it's often an illusion anyway. If we envy somebody else's life, we don't know what their life is like as far as their internal experience of it, their emotional experience of it, and their happiness or otherwise is entirely dependent on their internal emotional experience of it. Having said that, I do remember somebody saying, follow your envy. So it does give you an idea of what it is that you might want to create in this ideal day. Who you envy, what you look at. Is it somebody who's published a book? Is it somebody who does a TEDx talk? Is it somebody who teaches, in an academic institution as far as therapy? Is it somebody with X number of clients? Social media presence, whatever it might be. So use your envy, that when you look at that, to get an idea of what it is that you're drawn to, that you want to create. And lastly, just to say something about thinking here as well. This is a more general point in life. As I've said here, we're looking at what we think, what we imagine, trying to make sure that that's creative. Often people will say to me that they overthink. I would hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from people generally. I hear that a lot in the therapy room as well, that people say that they overthink. It's what somebody's thinking about that's the difficulty. If what you were thinking about for your 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day was about creativity, gratitude, love, a grounded sense of your worth and value, how contented you are in life, and also the exciting things that you want to do, the kind of hopefulness for the future, how much you love people, how much they love you, to add another 3,000 or 4,000 of those thoughts a day would give somebody much more, even more enjoyment and pleasure. It is not that somebody thinks a lot that is problematic. It is what somebody's thinking. It's that they will be catastrophizing potentially. They'll be underestimating their worth and value. They will not trust other people and think that on a process like this, and I'll talk about approaching and trying to connect with others as well, that other people will reject them. It's those kind of thoughts, the kind of worries, the anger, the competition as well, the comparisons, the worry that people will be rejected by other people if they make a change in career, for example. It's those sorts of thoughts that can be overly, they all serve a function, they all ask good questions, but I think if they dominate, they can stop us doing things that we want to do that are actually in our best interest, because we'll overprotect ourselves and stop ourselves doing things. So, as I say, just it's a more general point, but if you think of yourself as an overthinker, I think it can be helpful to narrow that down and make it more nuanced there, which is that you do this type of thought a lot, which can be helpful sometimes but unhelpful at other times. Anyway, just wanted to say that. So moving on to the second point. So we have this ideal day. You've imagined it, know what it feels like in the body as well, getting added to all the time. Then there is the idea of coupling that ideal day and what you would like it to look like with things that we'll do in order to achieve that. And what I'd suggest there is you form a list somewhere that keeps getting added to as you look into things and talk to people and listen to music and look at social media, whatever else resonates with you, add to that list. And what is on that list is things that are about connection, that establish, maintain connection with self and other people. And as I say, I'll come on to connection with others too on this journey. And also things that are about cultivating, things that are already in life for you, that you enjoy, that you can put more energy to. That can be relationships with others, it can be behaviours and things that are going to get bigger and have, as I say, have more energy as these weeks and months go on. And then also things which are going to create, so things that are coming out of nothing, I suppose. So having a list of those things more generally in life, but also those things which are going to be steps on the way to fulfilling this imagined day. I talk about, creation, connection, cultivation a lot more. I did a video on moving addictions out of life, and the concept there. If you want to manage anxiety, if you want to manage depression, if we want to manage addictions as well, I think the concept is always the same in that we need to know what we're going to do instead. Often people will think, I don't want to be as anxious as I am. I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to be addicted. And what is coming into life, thoughts, feelings, behaviours, what we're doing with our body, relationships with others, that's going to mean that we have an alternative to those things. Why would I go to the addiction when I can do this? We need this. We need the list of, or an idea of those creative things, those connecting things to self and others, those cultivating things that are going to be in life. So have a look at the video that I did about moving addictions out of life if you have time to do that. But as I say, we want to couple, this idea with actual steps, with actual actions as well. We want to couple, balance these sort of ideas with actions too. Another important thing here, well, two things to say really, that it's all well and good, I suppose, coming up with ideas. What happens for people often, if you're looking at somebody who has a tendency to depression, is that we lack the emotional energy to actually do it, or fear steps in and gets us to avoid doing it, or says, it won't work anyway, I'll do it tomorrow, and never do it. A couple of things to say here. The first one is about timing of doing these things, and the second one is just a few points about expectations as well. So firstly, if I'm looking at timing, what I think is quite a helpful thing to hold in mind is that there are likely to be times when you're much more inclined to do something, you might say brave or fearless, than others. So after a walk, during a walk, meeting somebody who you love and who loves you, who has a huge amount of trust and belief in you, those sorts of times, being in nature, physical movement, exercise. I had a list of things that I would do, and I would often send things once I'd come out of the gym at that time. So when I feel in a kind of regulated, a calm and alive state, then I would send a message to whoever that person was at that point. If I relied on myself to do that at 9 o'clock at night, where I tend to feel a bit more anxious, I don't think it would have got done necessarily. So there will be times where your body, hopefully, your nervous system, your internal experience is one of feeling connected to yourself and to others, trusting yourself, having a much more grounded sense of your worth and value, and much more of a trust in others. And it's at those moments that you will have this list of things that you can be doing, and you can do it then. The second thing I wanted to say, as I say, is about expectations. We're going to have expectations, and that's a natural part of life, isn't it? Of course we should have expectations of what might happen when we create this image of the day that we want. That is an expectation in some ways that's going to happen. Therefore, what comes with expectations on this journey at times is going to be disappointment, potentially. The more out there we are, the more important it is to us to do something, to get in contact with somebody. If they are not going to come back, or they ignore something, or something doesn't work out in the way that we might like, we're bound to be disappointed. A few things that I would say about disappointment, because managing disappointment is going to be part of the process. The first of those is that this is personally, it's very subjective, but I would rather be living a lived life where I'm taking risks and going out there and doing the things that I think I want to do, and trying to, create this life for myself, and sometimes get disappointed, than I would, and again, this is talking very subjectively from my point of view, surviving in life, doing something which I don't really enjoy, like overly protecting myself and staying put, and the feelings or lack of feeling that comes with that, because that tends to be a lot of anxiety, frustration, annoyance, sometimes feeling hopeless, helpless, potentially going to behaviours and substances to cope with that. Second thing to say about expectations and disappointment is that on this process, I think patience is a really important thing. Patience, I think, is waiting without anger or annoyance. Anger and annoyance are part of life, of course they are, but to keep in that calm and alive regulated state, which I talked about earlier, is going to make us more patient, is going to mean that we have more patience. Consistency, again, I think we tend to be more consistent and focused when we're in a more calm and alive place. But I would think about it, if you're looking at patience on the basis that networks get built one by one, client practices get built one by one. You have your first client, they may potentially tell other people. It's relationship by relationship. And if you're looking at, say, social media, there's a lot of things going viral. People have an idea of how many clients they want in their practice, so suddenly they may want 10, 20 people because that's what they need. But the important thing to bear in mind, I think, is that it's relationship by relationship. If you're looking at books, I've written a book, I remember somebody saying to me, books are sold one by one as far as relationships with other people, and I hope that helps as far as expectations and disappointment potentially. The last thing as well that I wanted to say about expectations and potential disappointment is, I remember when I was working in the city, there was a bus went past and it had a picture of Ryan Reynolds on it, and it said, quite a cheesy picture of Ryan, I don't expect success, I prepare for it. There was something about it that stuck with me. I think it was the point that I was thinking about making a career change as well. But thinking about it now, and why it stuck with me a bit, is that I think what's being said there is that, so I don't expect success. I won't spend that much time being disappointed. What I will do is prepare for the day that I want, the sort of ideal day, the life that I want. And I think that's great to bear in mind here. I've found that very helpful since then. So when I might experience disappointment, of course, I give myself time to feel the disappointment. If there is a comparison with others, and I think I'm not coming off brilliantly, I will acknowledge the comparison. I don't think any part of me is bad in terms of what it does. Competition, the same thing. Fear, the same thing. There's a gift in it. Annoyance, there's a gift in that somewhere. There's a message in it that's helpful. But I will allow myself some time to feel them, and then I always have hooked onto them that I will do something that's about creating the future that I want, or also enjoying what I have now, that kind of ease. So what wouldn't I change about my life? What wouldn't I change about myself? What wouldn't I change about the people around me and the world around me as well? So we can associate having a disappointed thought or an anxious thought or an angry thought, or competitive and comparisons, because they can be really difficult here, I think, on this process. We can start to associate them with adding on the end, once we've taken the message from them, adding on the end a creative thought or a creative action or a connecting action. Just moving on to the third, and this is about resourcing yourself. If we're looking at making sure that we're managing fear, that fear isn't dominating, if we're making sure that from a drive and comparisons point of view that we're valuing ourselves more than just that sort of material status and wealth, because there is a part of this process where we'll be coming away from kind of known job titles, potentially status in terms of career, kind of moving to status in some ways or in a different way. But there is something that the people's psyche, understandably from an evolutionary point of view, might struggle with from the point of view of making this journey. So we want to make sure that we maintain a grounded sense of our worth and value on it, because we're coming out of possibly environments where things are known, where we get external validation, possibly where we're known for the job that we do. Perhaps we get some feedback which says we're good at it. There's competency reflected back, moving into uncertainty, into the unknown, where some of those things are no longer being provided. So we need to make sure that we have these internal resources, that we're carrying around as much as possible, an internal, solid, consistent sense of who we are. And from that point of view, I'd refer you actually to a video that I did on overcoming imposter syndrome, which is also on this channel. And in that, there are 3 exercises, which are a timeline of achievement, and then also a competent and confident anchor memory, and then also making a note whenever you get external validation and feedback from other people in any form, and compiling a note there. So those 3 things, I explain them all in more detail in that Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. Sorry to refer you to another video, but just from a timing point of view, I think it's more helpful to do that. Those things, and there are other things you can be doing as well, but we'll be making sure that we're maintaining this grounded sense of our worth and value, this sense of who we are when in my case, for example, lawyer is falling away. A lot of people are, very attached onto the identity that their work gives them, the job title, doctor, lawyer, whatever it might be. And on the process of moving into uncertainty, those kind of external status type things are coming away to a degree. There's a change that's being made, some sort of transformation. And as I said, so maintaining your internal sense of who you are and your worth and value, and what is of worth and value about you, I think is really key to this. So do watch that video. Just the 4th thing that I would add here about resourcing as well, I did mention it from the kind of E side of things. I would, for everybody, suggest generally in life that we have that gratitude practice, things that we wouldn't change about ourselves, key from this point of view, from point of view of resourcing ourselves, but also what we wouldn't change about our environment, those kind of things as well. Because if I think, I'm on this journey of uncertainty and change, and I remind myself 3 things that I'm grateful for in my life that I wouldn't change and that aren't changing, that's grounding me all the time in what is and what is of value now. And that is the most helpful place often to come from a place of change, I think, because I know what I'm standing on. I know that I have these firm foundations, whatever that might look like, whether that's my own qualities, the people that love me, around me, material status, whatever it might be, nature, all those things. Okay, just moving on to the 4th point that I think is going to help, hopefully, with moving from some kind of certainty into uncertainty, and that is others. Others are a key part of any journey, a part of life, a part of well-being. I've talked about it in various contexts. As I've said above, coming into much more contact with others, of course, at times may disappoint, but I think you certainly overall, others will very much add to your life, I believe, through this journey. And I would talk about others in 2 contexts here, particularly the first of those is the extent to which other people can sort of give you ideas. They've been through the process before. There's plenty of people that will contact me on here because I've been through the process, looking to connect and find out what my experience is. There has never been a time, I think, where we can connect with more people in so many different ways on social media and podcasts, television, all these sorts of different ways in which we can hear other people's stories, and then we can see what they feel like, whether there's certain aspects of that inspire us, certain things that they say that we think no. We can all the time be using these relationships with other people to work out how we're going to do this and to navigate this change. That's of course about the new connections we can make as we move from this previous world, so to speak, to a new one, and I think we do need that. Of course, our existing relationships that are in life will be very helpful for this too, potentially. But there is something about people that have gone through the process, people that have, of course, everybody's experience is going to be different, even going through the process. But connecting with others to the extent that you can, really trying to do that. If you're looking at that list that I talked about, the sort of connection aspect of this, forming a list and writing down those people who we could contact would be a great thing here. People can give alternative points of views. I actually, as far as others, when I started my practice, I started it with somebody else who I was at college with. We have since, she's gone off to, well, she's still a therapist, but she now also writes and directs films, and so her life has gone much more in that direction, or has gone more in that direction. So we don't have a common website, but there was something lovely about doing it together, at least initially creating something together. So I think there's very much, which you'll know, the courses will provide that as well. That being around other therapists, a very key part of that is that you can share those experiences, shared values, and have that kind of support of others and support others. So that sort of mutual support happening all the way through. And the other thing that I would say there in this context as well is making sure that we're telling our story. A number of people come into therapy, become therapists, they might say because they're good listeners, because they are good listeners, they've got used to listening. And that is a key quality, a key competency for being a therapist, is to be able to listen in a way that shows somebody that we're paying attention and that they're seen and heard. And also, we need to be able to, in life, I think, be telling our story too. This isn't to clients, of course. This is to connections outside of the therapy room, because it's only through telling our story to others, I think, that we really get to know ourselves in relationship. And then we really get to, if we tell fully our story, intimacy with full vulnerability to at least some others that we choose to trust, we then know that we are truly connected with, that we are truly loved. The more we show of ourselves to another, and that they're still there and still love us, those are very important experiences, I think, generally in life, but also as therapists too. We would want for our clients, I think, this idea that shame dies where stories are told in safe places. So we have an or hope that clients will feel safe enough to share their story and to talk about things that are difficult for them to talk about, to show their vulnerability, which really adds enormously to or creates and sustains the relationship. I've really noticed as people's therapist that the people that tell stories about themselves, those are the relationships that really do establish quickly and maintain as well, because for all sorts of reasons, because it shows trust, because it shows that somebody is curious about themselves, self-reflection, those types of qualities, which are so important from the point of view of any relationship, let alone a therapeutic relationship. So, are you telling your story to others, just in relationships generally? What's really important to hold in mind here, I believe, is that you are your greatest gift. The word great can conjure up for people where they've been used to the kind of superior, inferior competition, comparisons thing about being greater than others or being the greatest. But I really like the idea of, and again, it's about resourcing, as I say, but being aware that you are your greatest gift on this journey, in terms of what you can offer other people as well, and equally they are their own greatest gift. So it's that idea that we have something unique to offer the world, just like every other human being has something equally unique to offer the world as well. All these ideas, I think, are really helpful on the journey to be holding in mind and to be acting, behaving, carrying out action in accordance with those beliefs as well. And then the last thing just to say is number 5, which is about the financial side of things. I talk about, the protective, the fear, the anger, the extent to which that can stop things. Or inhibit people's journey, or certainly make it more of a roller coaster than perhaps it needs to be. The financial side of things is a big concern for people too. That part will dominate, particularly if it's been an important value up to now, and it's an important value to the people around us. And I'll talk about it a bit more in the next video, I think, about should I become a therapist, because it is an important factor for a lot of people. But the thing that I would say here, just a quick thing, is that what I found really helpful, I have said this in another video, which I think is the one about setting up a private practice, which is that it's really helpful. I found it really helpful just to have a number of what I thought would be able to, support my life in the way that I wanted it to be supported, and then to think about the number of clients or the job or the mixture of clients and job that I would need in order to achieve that amount. As I said, I probably have said this in other videos, but that only happened in sort of the third or fourth year of my training. I spoke to a tutor and said, I sort of probably need to earn this amount of money. And he said, well, in order to earn that amount of money, you need this number of clients at this amount an hour, this many times a year. Do you think that sounds reasonable? And I said, yes, I think that does. Actually, the amount that he suggested was less than the average amount that people charge locally. I think it was less than the amount that I was paying in therapy at the time. And from that point of view, everybody's going to be different here, of course, as far as their values and how much money they want to make, all those things. But from my point of view, that sort of alleviated something. And I have had people contact and say, do you think as a therapist I can earn this amount? And they're just looking for that minimum amount because they know all the other wonderful things potentially in imagination that are going to come with being a therapist. They just want to know that they have this minimum amount that can be paid, that's going to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of in their life and have some fun as well. And I think most people, when they look at that amount or come up with that amount, they can see that it's absolutely achievable in the context of where therapy is. It's very difficult to say over and above that kind of not minimum basic amount, but minimum amount, what somebody can earn, because it depends on so many different factors. There are some addiction therapists. I remember somebody saying they paid £10,000 for a weekend to go somewhere. There are other therapists who in their local area, because of the socioeconomic environment, would struggle to charge £35 an hour and to get clients possibly. So there's all sorts of variable factors here. The primary variable, I guess, would be who you are and what you want and what you need and what area you want to work in and what kind of clients you want to work with. So all of these factors play a part. The thing that I would say here generally, and as I say, I'm going to talk about it in the video a bit more about should I become a therapist, is that for me, and it's only very personal, that more protective part, the kind of fear, the anger that used to dominate, or more the fear actually for me, then the part that's about drive, material status, winning competition, those things have become less important when they've handed over or been able to hand over much more to this place of connection with self and others. They are looking for something, I believe, to hand over to, but until that thing comes along, which I believe, and for me, came during the process of therapy and being people's therapist and having this practice, the sort of values and things have shifted over time. But I'm going to talk about that in more detail, as I say, in that video. In the meantime, I hope this has been helpful. As ever, please do comment, do subscribe, share videos if you want to. I'd love to hear your ideas for future videos. Thank you so much for watching. As I said at the beginning as well, I really do appreciate the fact you subscribe and watch, and I'll see you again soon.